Welcome back to Author Notes, the behind-the-scenes space where I share the inspiration, process, and little-known facts behind my historical women's fiction. Whether you've read all of my books or you're just discovering me for the first time, I'm so glad you're here. Today, I'm answering some of the most frequently asked questions I get from readers like you. Stay tuned. Hi, I'm Tanya E. Williams, author of historical women's fiction, including the Smith Family Trilogy, the Hotel Hamilton series, and the standalone novels in the Vintage Vineyard series. And today, I'm answering your frequently asked questions. But first, don't forget to hit subscribe, and you'll be notified each week when I release new videos covering topics that shape a story idea into a novel readers will enjoy. Let's dive in. Question 1. What inspired you to write historical women's fiction in the first place? Honestly, it all started with a deep love for history, especially untold stories of women who lived through defining moments in time. I've always been drawn to the quiet strength of everyday women, and writing historical fiction allows me to give those voices the space they deserve. As a child, I was introduced to a series of historical fiction novels set throughout North America during different times in history. I wish I could tell you the name of the series because it seriously changed the course of my life. All I remember is that each novel's title was the first name of the female protagonist in the story. One was Amanda, for example. Another might have been Sarah, and so on. If anyone happens to know which series I am referring to, be sure to let me know in the comments because I would love to revisit the stories that made such an impact on my love of history. Question 2. How do you choose the historical time periods for your novels? Well, I'm actually pretty well rooted in the 20th century historical fiction because it was such a time of so much fundamental change has occurred. With that particular century in mind, I am inspired by a moment in history that sparks my curiosity. Sometimes it's a location or a historic building, a court case, a cultural shift, or even a newspaper headline from the past. From there, I start imagining the kind of woman who might have lived through it, and how that experience might have shaped her. Question 3. Your stories often focus on complex family dynamics. Why is that important to you? Because family shapes so much of who we are. I'm fascinated by the ways love, loss, loyalty, and even silence can pass from one generation to the next. And in historical fiction, those dynamics are often heightened by the time period, making the emotional stakes even richer. Plus, I think most of us would agree, family is naturally complicated. And by writing about complex families, my psychology-loving brain is attempting to understand the inner workings of different family situations against the backdrop of history. Question 4. Do any of your characters have real-life inspirations behind them? Yes, some do. I often blend bits of real people, whether it's a story told to me around the family table or someone I've met during research trips or even just someone I've read about through researching different topics. But most of my characters are composites shaped by emotion, history, and a good deal of imagination. I will say it takes a very small nugget of real inspiration to excite me and push me forward to create a fictional character. A really small nugget. Question 5. What's your research process like when writing about the 1920s or other historical settings? I should say research is one of my favorite parts of the writing process. I dig into everything from old newspaper archives to fashion catalogs, slang dictionaries, and even vintage train schedules, which are not for the faint of heart. My goal isn't to overwhelm readers with facts. Instead, all that research is intended to make the world feel authentic and lived in. Question 6. If someone's never read your books before, where should they start? This is a great question and one that's hard to answer because it depends on what you enjoy reading. If you enjoy slow burn stories with strong female leads and emotional depth, the Smith Family series is a great entry point. But if you're more curious about secrets and betrayal and layered timelines, you might start with Growing into Greatness or The Bootlegger's Betrayal. The Hotel Hamilton series is perfect for those who prefer a lighter touch. Though the series deals with complex family dynamics and the emotional aspects of living through the 1920s, the stories are slightly softer in nature. But if you are comfortable diving into the immense emotion that comes with the grieving process and love a if these walls could talk kind of vibe, then I highly recommend All That Was. Question 7. Will we see any characters return in future books? Well, without giving too much away, yes. Especially in the Hotel Hamilton series, some characters may pop up in unexpected ways in future novels. I do love weaving a little Easter egg for returning readers to spot, and the Hotel Hamilton novels are perfect for this. For those already well invested in the series, Book 4, coming fall 2025, will feature a former guest of the hotel because she was simply too much fun not to include in another novel. Question 8. What's one historical fact you uncovered during research that completely surprised you? There have been so many. But one that stands out because it's still fresh in my mind is that during Prohibition, women played a much larger role in bootlegging than most people realize. Some ran entire operations, and their stories are endlessly fascinating. It's part of what inspired The Bootlegger's Betrayal, and who doesn't love a rough and tumble gal willing to go toe-to-toe with the men? Question 9. What's the best reader message you've ever received? The most frequent kind words I receive about my novels are how readers feel as if they're in the room with the characters. They are immersed, and that always makes my day, because I know I've done my job and allowed a reader to escape reality, if only for a chapter at a time. I've also received several emails from readers who are grateful for my inclusion of the grieving process. Grief continues to be a part of my stories since it is an unavoidable part of life, and I suspect I'm also still trying to understand it. One reader emailed me to say that becoming Mrs. Smith so closely resembled her family story, and this was made even more poignant for her since she had just attended the funeral of a family member whose life felt intertwined with the fictional story. That message still gives me chills. It's why I do this, because stories can build bridges between people, history, and the challenges we are all trying to come to grips with. Question 10. If one of your books became a movie, who would you cast in the lead roles? Oh, I dream of this, but I'll just say if a director ever calls and wants to make the Smith Family series into a movie, I would love to see John Smith, played by Tom Hanks. If you have any casting suggestions, let me know in the comments. So did I answer one of your burning questions? Or is there something you've always wanted to ask about my books, the characters, or the stories behind the stories? Leave your questions in the comments, and I'll try to answer yours in a future episode of Author Notes. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and hit subscribe so YouTube knows you like this content. Thanks for watching, and as always, thank you for reading.